EEE EDC, back again with another knife video. This is the top 10 EDC knives of all time. This is an open tag that was done by Slicey Dicey. I'm going to do my own version of it. I'm going to try to remember to put a link to his original video in the description for you guys to link to his original video. Many of you guys who have been here for a while know that I owe a lot of my subscribers to Slicey Dicey, so if you can give his video a like and subscribe to his channel, definitely appreciate it. Let me talk about what my interpretation of top 10 EDC knives of all time is. So this is not the top 10 knives of all time. This is not the top 10 hard use knives of all time. This is specifically EDC. So for example, a knife like this, which is a self-defense knife, primarily a self-defense knife, is not going to be really an EDC. Even if you carry it for EDC, for self-defense purposes every day, really the reason you are carrying it is not for general EDC. In my opinion, EDC is meant that it has a wide variety of uses across many types of tasks, and you can use it pretty much all the time for anything you would normally use a knife for. I also won't be including any out the fronts because you guys know that many out the fronts are daggers, and even the ones that aren't daggers really aren't the easiest to use for EDC. I know that many people EDC, like the Ultratech, for example, the Microtech Ultratech, but I've EDC'd that before, and all of the knives that I'm going to have on this list, I believe, are better EDC options than the Microtech Ultratech, even though the Ultratech itself is an excellent, excellent knife. Same goes for the Infidel. So, also, even though this is one of the best fixed blade EDCs of all time, the Bradford Guardian 3. This is the Warncliffe version, comes in other versions as well. Even though this is one of the best, very best, and possibly is the best fixed blade EDC of all time, although there are, some other great EDC fixed blade options. Fixed blades in their very nature are not as good of an EDC option for the most part as are folding knives, many folding knives. Also, you guys know that I love me some balisongs. This is the Alpha Beast Channel Beast, and I won't be having any balisongs on the list because even though they're a lot of fun, they aren't necessarily great EDC options for a wide variety of tasks, partly because of how they're carried. Even the ones that have clips aren't the best EDC options, and it is what it is. Let's just be honest. Guys who love balisongs, I love you. I love balisongs, but let's face it, they're not the best EDC options. Also, knives like this, the Shirogorov F95 NL, I'm not going to have on the list. Same with things like the Holt Spectre, which I've never even had, but I know that many people would put on such a list. I'm not going to put on the list because they're not really attainable for most people. So even though I'll have some decently higher end knives on this list, I'm not going to go as high end as like a Shirogorov or a Holt Spectre. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about some honorable mentions. I want to talk first about about Cold Steel. Cold Steel has several options that are actually great options for EDC. Everything from the Mini Tough Light, which is really cheap, to the American Lawman, the Recon 1, and the Code 4. Many of those are great options, and they range in size from very small to very large. The Recon starts to get above size-wise where I would consider a good EDC. And for this reason, I'll also say that I'm excluding some larger knives which are some of my personal favorites, like the Contigo and the Iron Wolf. I'm not going to have on this list because they're so large that they're not the best EDC options. Part of what makes a good EDC option is carryability. All right, now that I've talked your ear off for approximately 4.5 minutes and I haven't even gotten to the countdown yet, let me go ahead and get into the countdown. So some honorable mentions. First off is this is actually an honorable mention. This is the Ontario Rat 1 and also the CJRB Centros. These are both excellent EDC options in the budget range. This one's $35. This one's about it's about $24 for the AUS-8 version and about $42 for the D2 version, which this is the D2 version. These are both excellent options for EDC, and this also comes in the smaller Rat 2 version. Well, this one is only this one size. This one comes in the smaller Rat 2 version if you prefer a smaller knife for even more carryability. Me, as you know, I prefer a larger knife, and a 3.5-inch blade like this is really a perfect EDC size for me. The reason I put these as honorable mentions, and I'll actually say that originally, I don't have the knife here that's going to be number 10. I just don't have it with me. And so, because I sold it a long time ago, I probably will own it again at some point, but it's in the budget range, which is why I was going to discuss these as honorable mentions. And that knife is the Kershaw Leek. So these are going to be a stand-in for the Kershaw Leek, as well as, you know, the number 10. Now, these are a rough fit. Just like Slicey Dicey, I'm not doing them completely 10-to-1, but they're roughly sequential in how I see things. So you can, you know, be aware that that's the case. Sorry about that. So the Kershaw Leek is going to be number 10. The Leek is a Ken Onion design. It's been around for a number of years, and it comes in all sorts of iterations. It ranges in price, you know, from the budget all the way to like $150 range, and there's even some really, really fancy versions in the $300 plus range out there. But the reason is it's extremely pocketable. I don't love the clip on it, but it's extremely pocketable. The assist on it is great, and it's a great entry-level knife for anyone getting into knives. It was one of the entry-level knives that got me into knives. It's not the knife that got me into knives. That's a different knife that I'll talk about later on the list. But you know, the Leek is just something that's an old standby that is always a good option for EDC. Now, I'll go ahead and get into number 9, which is the Benchmade Bugout. Now, I thought about not putting this on the list because it's so new, but relatively new in knife years. But I can't not put this on the list. This thing was a total game changer for EDC. And one of the reasons I couldn't leave it off the list is because the lightweight aspect of it, and with, you know, the large blade to handle ratio. So this is about a 3.4 inch blade. I'll double check that. Let me see if I can get my, I don't have a ruler, but the 943 is also a 3.4 inch blade. So it's a little bit less than 3.4 inches. But this is a pretty large blade for being a small carry. This thing fits great in any type of pants you have, in any type of shorts you have. If you're going to the gym and want to carry a knife with you, you know, I know some guys do it. I do it. I'm not gonna lie. And you know, it's got this nice mini, you know, deep carry pocket clip. So this thing, you don't feel it in your pocket at all. Even when you've got basketball shorts, it doesn't ride down the shorts, and the clip on it is small enough that it, you know, it's not seen unless you want it to be seen. So this thing is amazing, has a nice axis lock action on it. The thumb stud is located in a great spot. You can see my video where I compare the Bugout with the Hogue Deca. The thumb stud placement on this is excellent compared to the Deca. And there's just something about it that it's just always a great option for wherever you are. Nice thin slicey blade, no complaints here. This is a great EDC option, and it's really customizable too, because you can get all sorts of scales for it on the secondary market, but you're gonna pay for the knife with the original scales and then add on the extra scales unless you go with one of the combinations that are pre-assembled together as quote-unquote semi-customs on certain websites that are knife retailers that do it themselves in-house. In any event, that's number 9. Number 8 is going to be another Benchmade, actually, and that is going to be the Benchmade Griptilian. Now, these are 2 different versions of the Griptilian. This is a custom shop with M4. This is the original plastic handles that comes on the Griptilian, and this is an upgraded version of it with M390. This is a DLT trading exclusive, and it's got the flat carbon fiber scales on it. Now, the The Griptilian, I believe, was a Doug Ritter design originally. I'm sorry, it's a Mel Pardue design. Doug Ritter had a separate design on Mel Pardue design, and this has been around for quite a while. Sorry, I hit the camera there. It's been around for quite a while, and it's one of the best, entry levels into premium knives. For a long time, it was made in CPM 154. Or I'm sorry, 154 CM, I believe it was in, not CPM 154. I think it was 154 CM, and then it moved on to S30V recently. It's been made in D2. It's been made in, I believe, a couple of other steels as well. But the new ones going forward are S30V as a standard. There's different upgraded versions available. It just has excellent ergonomics, and the reason it's called the Griptilian is the grip on the scales really fits into your hand and locks it into place. The thumb position on this is great. The blade is nice and slicey, and it really just is up to any task that you want. Comes in full size and mini, and so it fits your style preferences as far as how big of a knife you want to carry. And also can meld with different local laws, obviously, with the difference in length between the mini and the full-size grip. These are both full-size grips, by the way. This is just an excellent all-around option. Obviously, ranging in price, the regular Griptilian can run around $100. You can still find maybe some D2 versions on closeout around $80. They range up in price, and to about this one's about $246 on DLT trading for the DLC version, about $233 for the satin version, and so nice range, different options. This one definitely feels premium, and they also there's a lot of places to get aftermarket Griptilian scales, and so you can customize those as well, just like the Benchmade Bugout. Now, another Benchmade right in a row as we get to number 7. This is the Benchmade Freak. Now, I promise this list is not all Benchmades, but it just so happens that there's a couple Benchmades in a row on the list. This sort of, set the trend a little bit, because the Freak was originally supposed to be the original Freak, which is it had the plastic handles with the rubberized stuff on it, and it was S30V. The original one was supposed to be an upgrade on the original Griptilian on the design. It was supposed to be sort of a new take on the design, with a couple of improvements. A couple of improvements on ergonomics, a couple of improvements on blade design, blade grind. As you can see, the blade grind's a little different on these. This is more of a high flat, grind over here with a little bit of swedge on the top here. The grind really starts about right here, halfway up. So, and it's also a little bigger and really fits the entirety of the hand. I wear large size gloves. This was basically an improvement on this as well. Also, the cartridge liner sits, farther back on the Freak than the Griptilian. However, that rubberized part of the handle ended up making the original Freak a little bit more of a flop because people couldn't get them in and out of their pockets, and it never really took off. Then Benchmade, rather than throw away the design, came out with the Super Freak, and the Super Freak was a home run. This thing came out, and it's a nice thinly ground M4 blade. It is, has these nice pattern on multi-layered G10 with red accents here. The clip isn't the best clip, but you can put a deep carry clip on it if you like. I just left this on there because I don't mind this clip as much as a lot of other people do. You've got these nice red spacers here, your standoffs, and it's just a great all-around knife, a really, really solid performer. Benchmade's heat treat is pretty good. I know it gets some flack, but frankly, this M4 heat treat on this was perfect. Never had an issue with it. And their DLC is among the best in the business at you know, just being able to be cleaned up and wiped down and returned back to new. So this knife was a big home run. Number what is this one? 6. I'm losing count already. Is the TRM Atom. So this thing was also a game changer. Sorry, I misfired on that one. This thing was also a game changer because it really showed what was possible with machining in this price range. This is about a $200 knife. And in this price range, you don't really get the type of really tight tolerances and precise machining that is required to get this really smooth, almost CRK, Chris Reeve knife like action. This hydraulic feeling, polished, you know, washer action on this knife. And it has a very familiar blade shape here as well. One of the best budget knives of all time, in my opinion. It has a very similar blade shape to this. The CJRB Centros and the Atom have similar blade shapes. So you can see, you know, that it's a very useful blade shape. I did a very long video on this, you know, a while back, and most of my sentiments are echoed there, but really, really high quality knife for the price, really sort of resetting the trend in the market on what's possible. Just to give you a comparison, these are about the same price, within $10 of each other. And while this is an excellent knife, this thing is just more of a machining marvel. All right. Next on the list is the Spyderco Shaman. And I actually thought about putting this knife here, the PM2, or this knife, the Para 3. And I'm going to tell you right now, these two are not on the list. And that might seem like blasphemy, and I'll explain why. Now, if you like a smaller carry, this is the best option of the three, the Para 3. But the PM2, the Paramilitary 2, is sort of the old standard of, you know, and it was a game changer. And if Spyderco hadn't changed the game up again with the Shaman, frankly, this would be here on this list. Probably I should make this an honorable mention because of the fact that it didn't make the list. But I'm going to tell you why this didn't make the list. It's because the Shaman itself is not that much bigger of a knife than the PM2, right? They're pretty similar. The ergonomics are similar if you look here, as far as the cutout. The blade length is similar. It's a little bit taller on the Shaman, but not by much. Doesn't make much of a difference in the pocket. And people think of this as a much bigger knife than this one. But the reality is it's really not. And the other reality is that even though it's a little thicker, it feels better in hand. I think there's very few who could argue the great ergonomics on the PM2 are not dwarfed by the even better ergonomics on the Shaman. And for that reason, the Shaman makes the list, and the PM2 and Para 3 don't. I probably just got a few thumbs downs. But you know what? This is my list, and I got to keep things interesting, too, for people. Number 4, the Microtech Socom Elite. This is going to be the biggest knife on the list because generally 4-inch blades, while I like them, are not what most people would consider to be an EDC knife because, number one, they're bigger than what a lot of jurisdictions allow, and also because they're large knives to begin with to carry. I mean, if you want to look at the difference, you know, in the carry, sorry, we'll do something different. Let's use the Bugout, for example, right? So this is a much bigger knife to carry than the Bugout. Let's use the Para 3. Much bigger knife than the Para 3 to carry. So the other thing is a tip down only. So a lot of people wouldn't like this knife as a tip down only. I have a separate video showing why this knife is better as a tip up. Not necessarily that tip up is better than tip down or vice versa. I do have a separate video on tip up versus tip down. You're welcome to look at it. It's only a couple videos ago. But for the most part, I prefer tip up for EDC style knives. But for this particular knife, the tip down is the right decision for this. But you pull it out, it's nice and grippy here. It's, you know, perfect quality here. The aluminum is really good quality. I know it's not titanium, and for the price range, a lot of people expect titanium, but Microtech does very well with their aluminum. And their heat treat is good. The blade shape is really a perfect classic drop point blade shape. And you've got, you know, jimping up here for pull cuts, you've got jimping here for push cuts, and, you know, and you've got just great steels, great heat treat, really nice bearing action, all shut action on this. Comes in both auto and manual. I have a video on letting you guys know why I prefer the manual and comparing the two, but this is an excellent, excellent knife. Number 3 all-time EDCs is the Hinderer XM18. Now, this could also sort of, there could be a stand-in for ZT 0562, which for, you know, a while they said ZTs, you know, made a better Hinderer than Hinderer, but the current generations of Hinderer are by far better than current generations of ZTs, and they're just amazing knives. Now this is like I believe this is a Gen 4. I do have a Gen 6. It's missing one of these screws, so I don't want to lose the back of it, so I'm not going to put it on this video. But for the purposes, assume this is a Gen 6. But you have that nice bearing action on the Gen 6s, which have the tri-way pivot. I keep the bearings in. I believe this is one of the older ones. I think somebody replaced these with phosphor bronze washers, even though they originally came with Teflon before they sold it to me. But, you know, the ergonomics on this thing are fantastic. The clip is great. There's many different blade shapes you can customize. These are infinitely customizable. You know, they get expensive when you customize them, but they're infinitely customizable. They're flippers. They're thumb studs. You can delete the flippers if you want. Like I said, just the ergonomics are great. The jimping here is perfect, and they're just really good hard use knives. And everyone should experience the Hinderer XM18 at some point in their knife collecting lives. Also, just one more thing, I really like the styling on these. And all the blade shapes, every single one of them have great styling as well that Hinderer does. I will just mention real quick, these are not making the list, but you know, the XM24 is one of my favorite knives, but it's not going to make the list because it's too large, just like I was saying before about some of the others. But I do love the XM24. This is the ZT 0392, the Wharncliffe version. This was from the time when ZT was using Hinderer equipment to make their knives. As you can see, the equipment's very similar. The 0392 is basically ZT's version of the Eclipse, and the Eclipse is also a great knife, but probably should be an honorable mention on this video, but I was going to mention it here because I was doing the XM18. Number 2 all time has got to be the 943 and 940 from Benchmade. This Osborne design was so revolutionary. I mean, this was the lightweight knife that was really pocketable, sturdy design for EDC, despite being lightweight. It was years ahead of its time, and it has done so well that it's now celebrating its 20th anniversary with its own 20th anniversary knife. This is in many different configurations. There's been a whole bunch of exclusives. It's been in a whole bunch of different steels. A whole bunch of different scales have been through the years. You can see that even the handles here, you know, this is the original design on the 940 handles, but you have contoured handles here, you have flat handles in titanium, you have carbon fiber, you got aluminum. You know, this is, it's an eminently pocketable knife. Comes with, you know, well, these all have, you know, deep carry clips, mini deep carry and regular deep carry. But the original one came with the Benchmade clip, you know, like this. That clip is fine. But you know, you slap a deep carry clip on this, and these are just so good. And I said before in the video that I was going to talk about the knife that broke me. I may do a separate video on this. I had one recorded, it deleted, but this 943, this combo 943, was the knife that broke me. Yes, I did get broken with a combo edge. But I thought this thing was so cool looking when I was a kid, and I had to have one, and I got it, and it burned into me how amazing it was, you know, to carry a knife. It got me to believe in rule number 9. Many of you will know what that's from. So yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot I can say here that hasn't already been said about the 940. It is by far one of the best EDC knives of all time, and by far one of the greatest knives in general of all time. It's a design, like I said, that, you know, has been around for 20 years, and I will not be surprised at all if it's around for another 20. All right. Now, for the number 1 EDC of all time, and this comes in large and small size, is the Reeve Inkosi. Now, I could easily put here the 21 as well, the Sebenza 21. This is the Sebenza 21, this is the Inkosi. They're very similar knives. There's a couple differences. I'll probably cover some of those differences in a later video. But Reeve is the father of the frame lock, the Reeve integral lock. He is the father of, I believe, both S30V and S35VN steels, or at least S35VN was made specifically for knives. I think he helped incorporate the use of S30V before S35VN was around into knives, but I believe it previously existed for other applications. You guys can correct me on that if I'm wrong. But he's done so much for the knife industry. This knife is not only iconic, it is not only you know, revolutionary, it is and still is one of the best EDC knives of all time. Now, the Inkosi isn't not as old of a design as the Sebenza is. The Sebenza has been around a long time. But the Inkosi is based on the Sebenza 25. I believe it was called the Sebenza 25. And they eventually changed the name to the Inkosi. I like the ergonomics on the Inkosi a little bit better, so it gets carried a lot more, which is why I put the Inkosi here as opposed to the Sebenza. So as far as an EDC carry, I just think this is a better knife. That being said, the Reeve Sebenza 31, or I think they're just going to call it the 31. Can't remember if it's just the 31 or Sebenza 31. But that's coming out, or it is already out, in very limited quantities right now at the beginning of 2020. It should become more and more available as the year progresses and into next year. Who knows? That could be and end up being better than both of these, but I have not gotten my hands on one, so it can't be in this video. But the inlays on this are great. The tolerances are amazing. That smooth glass, you know, closing that it has is fantastic. You know, even the lanyards. I mean, I'm not a lanyard person, but you know, this one came without a lanyard because I got it off someone, and this one had a lanyard on it. I didn't feel like I had to remove it just because, you know, it's very, very nice. I do have, you know, a couple criticisms of it, obviously. I'll cover those in some separate videos. But, yeah, I mean, the titanium just this is one of the most solid feeling knives. Actually, it might be the most solid feeling knife that you can get as an EDC. You know, is it the strongest knife? You know, no, the triad lock is stronger than a frame lock. Even the axis lock, I believe, is also stronger than a frame lock. But as how solid it feels in your hand, because the tolerances are so tight, because the materials are really, you know, decently thick slabs of titanium. it really feels like, you know, the most solid EDC that you can have. And so, you know, when they say sabenzamine's work, you know, these knives from Chris Reeve, they work, and they're just great for EDC. So that's my list. Obviously, you know, Slicey Dicey had an open tag, so I would love to see your guys' list. This video went a lot longer than I thought it would. It went about 30 minutes. If you watched to the end, I really appreciate it. If you just fast forwarded through it, you probably didn't make much sense of all the you know, 30 knives appearing on the screen when it was a top 10 list. But you know, thanks for watching. In the meantime, go ahead and subscribe to my channel and hit the like button on the video. Hit the notification bell so you can get all my content. And just note that I have a giveaway that's running right now related to the pandemic. Excuse me. So if you can go watch that one, I am giving away a couple of knives in that. One of them is the aforementioned CJRB Centros, as well as 2 other knives as well. And I look forward to seeing you guys for some more content. Great. Thanks so much.